Welcome, everybody, to Always Be Reading. My name is Chantel, and I'm your host. I'm so excited that you are here today. If this is your first time, a very big welcome. And if you've been with me before, welcome back. Tonight, I am sitting down with author Camille Harwood, and she is going to talk about her book, which is Carolina Girl, Sunset Beach. And I cannot wait for the conversation. If you like stories that are seated in friendship, love, heartbreak, and possibilities, this is the conversation for you. And if you are a writer and you're looking for inspiration for your writing and publishing journey, as well as some very practical tidbits, then this is also a conversation for you. So before we get started, I just want to invite you to take a pause and help this channel out by liking and subscribing. If you haven't done so already, that's helping us grow. Thank you very much. And without further ado, I'm so excited to have this conversation with Camille. So let's jump into it. Welcome, Camille. Welcome, Camille. Welcome, Camille.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Before we get started, I just need to send a big shout out to Sunny Hudson, who's the reason why we actually got to know each other in the first place. Sunny was the first author that I interviewed, and when we were done, he told me about you and was like, you should reach out to her. And so thank you, Sunny, if you're listening. Thank you very much for kind of putting us together. So Camille, I want to say I've been so excited, like holding back like my thoughts and about this book. And I have two words that I experienced when reading your novel. And the first word, complicated.
Ooh,
This is
I like that.
This is complicated. And the second word, which doesn't happen for me a lot, and I really love when it does, it was unexpected.
Oh, I like that too.
Thought that I knew.
Oh, you're hired. I love this.
I thought I knew exactly like how the story was going to wrap up, like where it was going, how it would all come together. And I got to the end and I was like, I was wrong.
Shake up.
I was wrong. So thank you for writing a book that is very layered. I found it to be entertaining. I also found it to be fun, hard, at points. And I also found that it was hard for me to, people I wanted to not like dislike, it was that gray matter space, where I want to not like you, but I kind of do still like you. Like that kind of tug of war. So I really liked.
Thank you.
So just to catch everybody up to speed with it, could you just frame the story for our viewers?
Sure.
We're not giving spoilers away and we're not giving the whole thing away, guys, but we're going to just set a scene. We'll set a scene so that they understand the world that you created here, Carolina Girls.
Sure. So, well, thank you. Those are two words. I'm going to write those down. You're hired. You're my new PR guru. The Carolina Girls series is going to be a 4-part series. The first is Carolina Girls, Sunset Beach. Each of the 4 books revolves around one of the 4 main characters. So it's a group of 4 women who are just, they're forever friends. And the whole series will be, the anchor of the whole series is friendship. So you nailed that. And I think it's so important, especially now, just, when there's so much chaos in life, that you have that circle of trust, those people that you can count on no matter what. And they'll judge you in a wonderful way and tell you, if they agree or disagree, but there's always love there. And that's what these 4 girls represent. So Millie is the main character of this first book, and it's all about self-discovery. It's all about, deciding what you want out of life. It's knowing who you can trust and learning to trust them as well as yourself. I think that's an important part of the journey that she takes throughout the book, that she's learning to not only trust herself, but she needs to trust that group and her family as well. But believing in yourself, friendship, self-discovery, I think, are the foundation of this book. And then, the shenanigans and the fun, like you mentioned. I started this book over COVID, and life was hard. You know, the world was on pause, and we had a wonderful experience. And I know that's not, that's the exception to the rule, but it gave us time to just sit and be a family without having the practices and the school, you know, all the
all the things.
So life was hard enough, and I just wanted to write something that was fun and a little lighthearted, complicated, certainly at times, but an easy read that you could get through, escape for a second, and just feel good at the end. Maybe a little frustrated at the ending. No spoilers.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I still am thinking about. I still don't know how I feel about the end. I like when I first read it, I had a definite feeling, but as the days have gone on, my feeling has changed, or it's included different things. I like the fact that you said this is about self-discovery. One of the things I really appreciated was being able to see, being able to witness in in real time Millie's struggle, her inner struggle. And I don't, it's, she's just, we're just exposed to it and we're there with it. And it was because we were there with her with it, I found that I wasn't judging her as she was like struggling and making choices and then having feelings about the choices that she made and all of this stuff. I was always cheering her on, and I was able to accept where she was and what she was doing, but I didn't feel judgy towards her. And I think that that is in part with because of how you wrote her. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, thank you. I think it was really important to me to write characters that people could fall in love with. And you may not relate exactly to this particular character, but they're out of the four friends, there is hopefully going to be somebody that you relate to. And then, just like you said, the decisions, it's so heartfelt and it's so honest and raw that it is hard to judge, because you're thinking, I wanted people to think while they were reading, well, what would I do in that situation? It is a gray area, and I can't blame her for the choices that she's making, right or wrong, and same for the other characters in her life.
Yeah. So how did you said it was during COVID when you started writing this. How did you think to create kind of this world? Did you start knowing like I want to write a series, I want it to be about friendship and focus on friendships, or did this story kind of emerge first and then that came? So how did this come to be?
That's a really great question, and I wish this is in no way a true story. This is not my life. It's not the life of anyone that I know. It's completely fictional. With that said, we're during the COVID shutdown. We're kind of imagining what life was like when we could go and be, and just not have to worry so much. And so I just started kind of pretending. I've been writing my whole life, and I've been telling, storytelling my whole life. And so it was just more of I used to go to an office. If I was in the office now, what would be going on? And so it just kind of slowly emerged from that. I think bits and pieces are me, bits and pieces are friends of mine, and, stories that I've heard, or, a commercial on TV, whatever the inspiration is. But no one character is built around anyone real. With that said, there's definitely, I've gotten some calls of, this is me, isn't it? Just tell me, is this me? So, but it's not, no one character is one person. But I truly did just sit down and use my imagination. It's such a great escape. I've been a reader my whole life. I love to jump into books because of that escape. And so I wanted to write a book that I could escape into. And by the end of the hardest parts of COVID, I had a solid draft. I say solid loosely, but I had written several chapters, and I had the story kind of outlined in my head. It obviously took, we could talk about that later, but it took a few years to finalize and edit through and make the story make sense. but it really was just such an escape for me. I loved jumping into that book and just having a few minutes of make-believe time. And the
Yeah.
joke is that I waited until my 40s to have imaginary friends,
Right.
because these characters are so real to me. I love them,
Yeah.
genuinely love them, and I feel like I know them, and I can't wait to see what happens, just along with everyone else,
Right.
to their self-discoveries and, their character development, because 4 books is a lot. And the second one, I know where that, is going. The third one, I think I know. The fourth
Mhm.
one,
You're like, I
it's,
don't know.
yeah, dealer's choice. I don't know.
I can only imagine that that must be what it feels like to have these friends that are living with you and that you're thinking about as you're going through your day. And I really liked how each of these women were very distinct to me. And but they also were, and maybe it's because of when we're meeting them in their relationship that they've been friends for a long time. And I thought I found it refreshing, Camille, to read a story about women that that is kind of like embedded in friendship, and there wasn't cattiness, there wasn't
No
like
competition.
competition, there was genuine forness, but there also was honesty.
Hmm.
There was honesty, there was concern that that came, but there
I think
wasn't
those are
this.
the best friends, though.
Yeah, but you don't see a lot of that displayed in books or even like, TV shows and stuff of that nature. Like, I think the type of friendships we all want and we all treasure, like those types of friends, they're not the ones that we see a lot of examples, because I think maybe drama sells, or not, like, negativity sells maybe. But
Hmm.
I really loved being able to see these women be so supportive of one another, such a collective, but still individuals, you know,
Hmm.
and very distinct in their personality and in themselves. And it's like they all had, even though this particular book is focused on Millie, it wasn't like they all had their weight and they were all important to one another, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I really like
Definitely.
that.
Thank you. I think it is so important to have those friendships, one or a dozen, however many you have, but have those people that you can count on to be honest and tell you the truth, but also love you through it, no judgment.
Yeah.
And so I wanted people to feel like they had jumped right into the center of this friend group, and that they were already a part of years of trust and years of love and years of shenanigans and fun
Yeah.
and the wild, crazy times. And I think it's rare. I agree, but I also think when you find them, that makes them just so much more important to keep
Hmm.
around and take care of. And I didn't want the cattiness and the competition. I wanted it to be, you're not always going to like me, but you'll always love me because I'm
Right.
going to tell you the truth no matter what.
Right.
So,
Right. I want to talk about the men in the novel,
mhm.
because one in particular, Mr. Taylor,
Mhm.
who I struggled with him, like his character the most, out of the book. So Taylor is a love interest, of Millie's. They work together, and and I struggled because I'm s- I like him. I like Taylor.
Mhm.
You know, I liked them. There was a part of me that liked them,
Even though you didn't
um,
want to.
even though I didn't want to, and I felt I felt bad
Mhm.
for, and I found myself. This is really, I don't. So this is what I wanted to ask you. I found myself when they weren't in a scene together, or when they weren't when she wasn't with him, or didn't like they were going to interact. I found myself reading faster. I wanted to get to them, like what's going to
Mhm.
happen with them. And I felt a way about that, which is part of like that unexpected thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I haven't resolved my feelings about Taylor's. I just, yes. And I
That
was
seems to
also
be
very,
the common.
I was also, there was a point where I was very upset with him. Very upset.
Yes.
Very upset.
That seems to be the common opinion that, you know, I didn't want to like him, but I did like him.
Yeah.
But I don't want them together, but they are good together.
Yeah.
But you know, things are holding them back from being together.
Yes.
That
Yes.
you know that's not going away.
Yes.
I think so. In Millie's predicament, she's caught. You know, she's put herself into. I was going to say caught, but that's not accurate. She's put herself into a love triangle, and I think there's two distinct choices. And they are very, very different. And so I think with Taylor, I needed him to be lovable. I needed him to be that gray area that people could see his side, could understand maybe a little bit of where he was coming from so that he's not just a villain, because
Right.
Millie wouldn't fall for a villain.
Mm.
He needed to have enough of a backstory, which is why he has more time in the book than
Yeah.
Drew. I mean, we definitely learn about Drew, and he's, you know, wonderful in so many ways. But the backstory is definitely, between the two of them, is definitely more Taylor, because yet for what it is, you needed that information so that
Yeah.
you could make a well-rounded opinion. I think I've never heard the same opinion twice. It is so varied. And I thought it would be very much a Team Drew or a Team Taylor. And that is
Mm.
just not the case. It's
So that
very
surprised
interesting.
you. That
It
surprised
definitely
you.
surprised me. Yes.
Wow. What did you have a choice? Like, do you have a favorite between Taylor and Drew?
I do, but I can't tell you who because the next book, all four of the women will be in all four of the books, and
Okay.
Taylor and Drew will be in the
Oh,
next book as
I was
well.
going to ask that question because of how it ended. And okay, okay, yes. I I really there's lots of things that I thought was brilliant that you did. Number one, I'm a fan of your wit. Your wit
Oh,
is
thank you.
spot
I
on.
love it. Can we do this every day? This is wonderful.
I just, it's
Sorry,
so
continue.
natural. It's very like, I am not a witty person quick like that. So I think I really appreciate it. And it kept the levity of the book and also like real, because when you're going through stuff, it's, there are moments um, of just witty little comments that come or things that happen that just kind of lightens the atmosphere. So I really loves the quick wit, and how Millie's very sharp. I mean, she was able to stand toe to toe in her professional environment. I loved the agency of these women as
Mm-hmm.
well. I love that they were not shrinking violets. They were not needing to be rescued,
Mm-hmm.
damsel in distresses, kind of in a way, but really seeing fully kind of formed women who, but also women who were still on their journey of becoming, right? That self discovery that you talked about. And
Exactly.
because that resonates with, like, yes, what I can relate to, and what I can relate to in my friends and my sisters and so on and so forth. So that was really, really good. And I liked how, I also like, and this is just for me. So Millie is a bit of a klutz, and things happen to her. Things just
Yes.
happen. And things happen to me too. So there is a scene where Millie is standing, she's about to go meet her girls for dinner, and it's raining, and she's standing on a sidewalk, and car passes and just drenches her. And I was like, that would be me. I would be the one. I would be the
So
one.
that's an inspiration from life, actually. My best friend and I have a favorite restaurant, and I was headed that way after COVID to meet her. And I looked, and there was a poor, unfortunate soul standing there who got drenched. And this is so bad. This is so bad. But in my heart of hearts, it's like, I'm glad, she's okay. And,
Yeah.
that stinks, whatever. But that's really funny. As long
Right.
as she's okay. I felt bad
Right.
for her, but
Right.
that could be really funny. And so that was one of those. Let me jot that down real quick. And
Yes.
so that actually happened.
Yes. So I loved like that aspect of it and how you kind of weaved it all together. And I also loved the shifts of narration, which is something I wanted to talk to you about. How did you decide to narrate the story? Did you always have a set way you wanted to narrate it, or did that change?
That's a great question, actually. My first draft, I have it in my drawer. It says I everywhere. I was
Mm,
Millie. And as I got into the story, I knew that the story wouldn't be complete after this first book. And so I went through and I swapped all the I's for Millie so that um, each person, each of the girls could get their due, and their story is worth telling. They're so very different, like you said before,
yeah.
and I just knew this first book was very foundational. I needed you to not only meet everyone, but start to fall in love with them. Maybe not completely, maybe not every character, but resonate with at
Mm-hmm.
least one or a few of them. And so in the next story, they'll all be there. The second story focuses on Rory. Excuse me.
Yay!
Um, and um, it definitely dives deeper, not only into Rory's story, but the other girls as well. You get to know them on a deeper level, and
Each
that
one goes
theme
a
will
little
continue.
deeper.
Exactly, that will continue through
Yeah.
the series, and I think right now it'll end at 4. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually toying with the idea of a 5th book to actually tie it all together. We'll
Got it.
see. We'll see what happens. But the way the
Yes, I like
story's
that.
going with the second one, and like I said, the second one I'm a little more than halfway done now.
Mhm.
And then the third has been outlined, and I'll stop writing Rory and I'll go, the third one will be Audrey. And so I'll type a page or two, and then I go back to Rory.
Oh, wow.
And then the fourth story is just an outline. So with everything that I've written so far for the second and third book, I haven't figured out how I'll tie all of that up with a bow
Mhm.
in one book. So it may be a 5th book. We'll see. We'll see.
I'm all for it. I was thinking about the question that you asked me when we chatted first, like which character, which of the girls,
Yeah. Which Carolina girl are you?
which Carolina girl am I? And I was like, so typical to me. I'm like, I think I'm a like combination.
Sure.
Definitely the clumsiness and just the things happening of Millie for sure.
Mhm.
Totally see that. So that aspect I do see. I I love Rory. And I think like how I also am intrigued by her too. So I'm really interested. The second book is coming because I want to like know know her story,
No more.
know more about her, and like where she is, like really with things, because she seems a little um like jump in. She's also like seems she's very I think the thing that I liked about her was she has a strong commitment to her friends. And I loved how she would check on her and leave little notes, like the little notes and those kind of like little sweet things. I
Mhm.
really liked that aspect of it as well, like of who she was. I also liked Audrey though. So it's hard for me to decide which one.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to decide which one.
I
But
think. Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say I I liked the fact that it's building ensemble, and I think the I was asking myself the question, if you would have written this in first person throughout, I don't think that we would have, or I would have, as a reader, I would have had the
Connection.
invitation to connect in the way that I do here, like with how you did write it. So I was wondering about that.
Yeah. This is Can I say I love you? I mean, we've only talked, twice now, but I think yes, all everything you just said is so perfectly worded. I wanted people to resonate, but more importantly, I wanted them to feel like they were a part of the group. And if I was saying I did this and I got splashed,
Right.
by the puddle, then there's a separation there. But if it's Millie got splashed by
Right.
the puddle, then it is an invitation to join her world and feel her pain, her joy, her
Right.
stress, her whatever. And I think for all four of the books, it's really I don't know. The anchor of everything obviously is friendship, but these girls live very, very different lives. They're all in excuse me, all on different journeys. I think Millie and the self-discovery, which will be a theme for all four books, but it's really important that she kind of gets her head on straight and learns to trust. And I think, the character development, hopefully she'll get there. Rory, she's kind of the glue. Millie is, the glue of the group, but Rory's the mother. She's the one that's kind of making sure everybody's good, and she's the one who's going to remember chargers on the vacation, and just make sure that everybody is doing what they need to do. Audrey's coming out of a very terrible relationship, and she's starting her life completely over. And so as professional, she's a doctor, and as professional as she is and in charge at work as she is personally, she's just a wreck, and rightfully so. And so learning how to breathe again. And then we have Kate, who's the wild card and is, the, queen of the shenanigans and doesn't necessarily think before she speaks. I think shakes the group up just enough to get them thinking, but not enough to really rattle them. And they all complement each other in such a way that it makes them stronger.
Yeah.
And they feed off of each other, which I think is going to be interesting.
It is going to be interesting. And I love even the idea, which I'm totally amazed by, of writing some of each. I think that it will make a cohesive, like keep the cohesiveness of this world that you built and that you have created. Is there a scene or a character or like a response that caught you off guard, or are you like a writer that's very controlled over everything?
Oh no, this whole story caught me off guard. I think I had a very different, and I can't tell you exactly what that is, but I had a different idea in the beginning when I sat down, and I like pen and paper. And so my first draft was nearly completely pen and paper, and it maybe not completely, but at least half. And it was about maybe the half, 3/4 mark. I thought I should probably type this up. And as I'm typing it up, I'm changing it as I go. And so, I'm crossing off paragraphs and saying, no, she wouldn't say that. Because at that point, then I knew them better, than when I first started. To answer your question, I think every turn, I have a general direction in my head of where I want the characters to be. And I have, if you can see what my desk really looks like when I'm not on camera. There are Post-it notes everywhere because I know exactly where I want them to be at the end of the series. And so getting bogged down by the details of getting them to that point has been really interesting. And so almost like a timeline of things and, the outline of how I want them to get there changes constantly, because when I sit down and I have, chapter 6 is going to be her doing this. And by the end of chapter 6, I've probably bled into 7 or 8, and it's gone a completely different way. Now, she'll still get to the end point, but different things come, and I just kind of let it come out. And then after the first draft is nearly complete, I read it for the first time again, and does it make sense? Does it flow? Is it believable? Do you love her or them? And if you can't resonate, if you can't connect, what's the point? So, we'll see. I actually I told you a little bit more than halfway through the second book, and I had to put it down for a little bit this summer. And so I came back to it and went ahead and started over and just read it for the first time. And oh my gosh, it was, like a bad essay that you turned in college, red marks everywhere. No, she would never say that. No,
Right,
no, no, no.
right.
So
Right.
it's been, I am so incredibly grateful that I get to do this.
That's amazing.
I literally smile through the whole, dreams coming true. So I don't know that my process is right. I'm sure it's not actually, but it works for me. And I think I just am grateful. I smile.
Yes,
while
that's
I write.
the whole thing. It's the right process because it's the process that works for you. I want to shift and talk about piggybacking on what you just said, that you're so thankful and grateful that you get to do this. And I want you to tell us the story of how you came to do this, because you were in corporate, right? And you were not a writer. So how did you transition from that world to this world that you've created for yourself?
My imaginary friends and I, we, we said, no, I'm just kidding. I have wanted to be a published author. I can't remember not wanting to do that since I was very, very little. Literally every wish on every birthday candle, every shooting star, every penny in the fountain, whatever it is, that has been my constant. I wish I could say it was world peace, but it was very much, can I please this year be a published author? And so that's why I think I have such a deep appreciation for it, because, it's been over 30 years that I've been wishing. And I was in corporate marketing, and I left my team. I liked the work I was doing, but I had no joy. And when I would go home, I would keep working. And as you and I know, with girls in their senior year of high school, that blinks by in such a hot second. And with all of the stars that were aligning, and my family we had a death in the family, and just all of these things were happening and putting life in perspective. And it was enough. I needed to stand up for myself, and I needed to say, what do you want your life to be? Which I think is one of the reasons that I have that end goal with the characters. I know where I want them to be. Right. And then the details getting there are a little bit fuzzy sometimes, but we get them there. And that's how I felt. I was in Estes Park, Colorado, and I was visiting my grandparents. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. I was sitting by a lake, and it was a beautiful day, very, very early in the morning, thanks to time change. And I was sitting there, and it occurred to me I hadn't sat and just appreciated anything. And I couldn't remember the last time. And so I did that. I was there for a few days, and I did that every morning. On the third or fourth morning, it was a challenge to myself. Now you recognize that you don't have joy, other than, of course, our children. I love, I like my children as much as I love them. They're wonderful. She said very biasedly, but they're wonderful. But I don't have joy. What's my passion? Because I wasn't living it. Mm-hmm. And what do you want your end goal to be? And I had a very long talk with an aunt and my grandfather, and blessings just kind of came from there. There was a lot of prayer, a lot of terror, a lot of anxiety, but I found the joy. It clicked up every single time I took a step in what I now know is the right direction. Mm-hmm. And there was a peace about it. All of the stars just seemed to align. And when I left that job, I left stability. I left a steady paycheck, and I sat my kids down and said, life is going to be different. We're going to have to, do things differently. Are you on board? And I could cry. It was, but I'm not gonna. It was so humbling the way they supported me and my whole family. Oof, I didn't see that coming. Sorry. So it was such a blessing, and I will be forever grateful the way that they supported me and still support me to this minute. And I found the joy, and I don't miss it at all. It was the right decision. And I get to do this, and I am grateful every day for this. Every day I look at my screen, that blank screen that an author hates to see, and I smile at it because I know I'm right where I need to be. So it took a hot minute, your mid-40s, but it took a second to, I think, believe in myself that I could actually do it. And, there was definitely some curveballs. The roller coaster was not always a fun ride, but here I sit knowing that I believed in myself, that my family supported me. The worst case scenario is it doesn't work out, but I still published. I still tried.
That's right.
And so I have no complaints.
And you valued you, and you took a risk on yourself. And it's so interesting that this book is about women being on their journey of self-discovery, and that's what you live while writing this book. Like, that's so, I love that. How old were your kids when you told them that? Like, gave them
17 and 14.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's
old enough to understand.
Yeah, and it's such a great example of, such great modeling of humility, vulnerability, needing community, needing support, taking a risk, fighting for something you believe in. Like, so many lessons that are that they are able to witness, and they have in their arsenal for themselves, as well.
That's the hope.
Yeah, that is the hope. How was self-publishing? How was that journey? Like, how did you come to that decision? Was it easy, or were there things that happened that were unexpected?
Definitely unexpected. I had set everything in motion at the corporate job to leave, and I found a publisher who was too good to be true. Wink, wink. And I believed everything that they said, and I'm sure I'm not going to say the name of the company because I don't want to give them any credit. I'm sure in some way there was a level of truth. But everything, there were so many red flags that by the end of it, I called a friend of mine who is one of those core people who happens to be a lawyer. And I said, I've gotten scammed, haven't I? And we just cried. She just cried with me. I don't think it was a scam. I think it's a real company. Whatever. But what they were feeding me was, anyway, it was not a great experience, to the point that I put the draft in my nightstand. And
I was going to ask, did it discourage you and make you just like doubt?
Absolutely.
Yourself? Okay.
Absolutely. And I, it's not meant to be. And, this is a terrible mistake. And, what am I going to do? And, whatever. And I think it's those lessons that made me stronger, because I took what I learned, right or wrong. This is what I want. This is what I absolutely don't want. And then I mentioned that we had a death in the family, and one of my uncles, Patrick Harwood, is a published author out of South Carolina. Excuse me. And at the funeral, actually, he looked at me and said, "Why didn't you call me?" And so he gave me a number to his publisher, and that was in March. And the book launched in June. So from the time I spoke to him, called the company, Palmetto Publishing out of South Carolina, it happened very, very quickly after that. But I needed to learn what I learned from the bogus company. Again, not a bogus company, whatever.
Yeah.
But all of those
red flags. The company that shall not be named. The company that shall not be named. Yeah.
Exactly. All of those red flags was a better education than if somebody had just handed it to me and said, here's your book. Because I truly did have to learn from the ground up. I had no clue what I was doing. So whatever they said, I started investigating. Absolutely. But I started investigating and kind of researching and whatever. So then when I got to a company who actually took care of their clients, and I would say, well, what about this? And, you know, I'm sure their heads were just like, oh, forget what you learned. So it was definitely a night and day difference. It was definitely where I was meant to be. And so I'll forever be grateful for the lessons that I learned, grateful for the uncle who, you know, smacked me on the back of the head. Not really. And, you know, publishing with people who care. So
I'm curious, Camille, especially for the writers out there that are listening and are, you know, embarking on their own journeys. What are some of those lessons or red flags or things that, you know, what wisdom do you have for them based on what you've learned?
Sure. I think customer service is key. I think, especially as a new author and especially as an independent author, you rely on them to know the field and know the industry and know what they're talking about. So that customer service, people calling you back when they say they're going to call you back and responding, you know, appropriately to different emails and questions and things. If you have red flags, that's real. And so even if you know, I would say don't jump into something because they compliment you. They're salespeople in the beginning. They're going to compliment. And I'm sure that you've got the next, you know, New York Times bestseller in your hands, but don't go with your first company. Do your research and talk to and really interview different companies and get to know them and ask to speak to the project manager that you would have, because that person is going to be your anchor to sanity some days, you know, between the editing and all the different phases of writing. They're going to be that person that really does kind of keep you grounded and keep you on that timeline. I think the other thing, as wonderful as Grammarly is, and I use it every day, I'm a big fan. That is not the end all be all when you send your script to your publisher and you can tell that what they've done is just run it through Grammarly and they haven't actually read the book. And so different things like there versus there. Or if you're speaking in a voice, like the Carolina Girls voice, they're not always using proper English. You know, they say y'all or, you know, whatever.
Especially the Southern dialect.
There's some Southern charm in there. And so Grammarly doesn't like y'all necessarily. So I think, you know, when you're seeing that consistently, that they're changing the voice, then they're not understanding the book, you know, exactly. The manuscript is not being read in a way that will help you.
Right. I'm curious to know, because I'm part of my job is I'm an editor, and I'm curious to know, because I felt this was well edited. And so I wanted to ask you, like, did they provide an editor? Is that part of what you receive as the team? Or did you have an editor outside of that? Like, what was that process? What was the process of editing the book?
So the first company that I worked with edited, and they would send me a chapter at a time, and it would be worse than when I sent it to them initially. And so through that, not only was I having to change things back, I mean, I kept my original document that I sent them. Not only was I having to change things to the original document, but you know, you're going to miss some things that they changed. And so it was actually worse off when I got it back. So that was a huge setback, even with a good editor. And so I read it probably 5 times, the whole book, probably 5, and I caught different things every single time. And I knew I had changed this in the, you know, anyway. And so I, at that point, kind of didn't trust And this doesn't have anything to do with Palmetto Publishing, because they did not edit this book. But I didn't trust anybody, because I thought, this is going to be terrible. They don't get the voice. They don't. So I just need to do it myself. And every single time I read it, I would catch different things. And so I made a short list of people that I thought would not only have time to read the whole book in about a week, or maybe 2 weeks, I think, but would really be honest and say, this does not make sense. This flow isn't right. Or you keep, one of the things was, okay, it's grammatically incorrect to write it in lowercase. You should write it in uppercase. And so, okay was in the book 1,000 times. I needed somebody to say, you are doing this every time. Stop it.
Right.
And just be completely honest. I wanted the constructive criticism. And I had a short list of people, and they all gave me wonderful feedback. But I have a wonderful aunt who is brilliant, and she is a wonderful writer herself. And I sent it to her, and I said, please edit. And within a week, I had maybe 5 pages, probably more than that, of edits. She went literally character by character and gave me such incredible feedback. And I will never be able to repay her for what she did. It was extraordinary. So my Aunt Anne, she edited.
Aunt
Anne, she is wonderful.
Wow.
So,
well, your family seems as wonderful as Drew's family, because I fell in love with his family.
Didn't you though? Me too.
I fell in love with Drew's family, and I felt right in the midst of them. And whenever, they were dead, I really love the dad. Really love Drew's dad. Really love Drew's dad. That's so interesting. I was always curious, like, how that works. Well, you yourself, your readers, and Anne did a great job, I think. There was I didn't see any grammatical mistakes, and I always thought, like, kind of takes me out of a story a little bit, but there was also consistency within like the characters and within the development. And so, yeah, really good.
Yeah,
really good.
Thank you, Aunt Anne.
So key points is take your time to writers, do your research, beware of red flags.
Definitely. And I think know when to be done, know when the story is complete, or when it's time, to go to the next book. I think one of the things that I really had to catch was putting too much detail, because I wanted to really describe the scene. When is it necessary? Because the focus needs to be over here. It doesn't necessarily need to be what the sand feels like under your feet, or, whatever it was.
Right.
And so limiting and understanding what editing actually means. It doesn't just mean fix the grammatical errors, but really make sure that flow flows, and that, there is a timing to it all, and that you don't rush the story, but you also get to the point fast enough that you're keeping the readers engaged.
Right.
And then, developing the characters. I have, again, if my desk was like it was an hour ago, you would see, I've actually posted this on Facebook and Instagram. It's basically the persona of each of the girls, and it has all of these whirligigs and lines and arrows and things, but it also includes who they are, what they're about. If they're a coffee drinker versus tea, whether they like the mountains versus the beach, whether they whether they are anxious or cool as a cucumber, outgoing, loves, public speaking, or an introvert and want, to read a book in a corner away from people. So really developing those characters so that you really understand how they would react in a situation makes the story, the continuity of the story just is it
cohesive.
Exactly. Thank you.
It's very cohesive, and that matters so much, because when readers, we're invested, and like, we know, like, we're like, wait a second, and we, and those things, for me at least, it takes me out. I'm reminded, like, I'm
That's exactly right.
Oh, wow, look at that. Yes.
Yeah.
So
that's funny.
But
that's the wild card.
So it's so important. It's so important. I'm wondering, like, how did you balance the creative side of writing this book with the business side of it? Because those are two very different hats. And I'm wondering if your background in marketing helped you to navigate those hats a little more. Look at Audrey. I
Isn't
love
she
that.
precious?
She is. And you know what? She is.
She
And it
is.
makes me now
It's
even more pissed about what happened to her. I
it
have
hers
emotions.
is hers is the tragic story. And side note for 1 second, when I was doing
Yeah.
those, I plugged it into Chat GPT, and I just paragraphs and paragraphs, far too much information about what I wanted these women to be. And for Audrey specifically, I was putting in, she's had a tragic past. She's escaped, her abusive husband, and she's starting her life over. I want her to be smiling because she smiles, she sees the miracles she's
Yeah.
in everyday life, but she has sad eyes. And the first image that GPT gave me was this just decrepit, just
Oh,
hunchback, just terrible. I was like, no, 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 she's beautiful, she's
she's
beautiful.
beautiful.
And she's got this amazing smile, and she does have sad
Mm,
eyes because she's seen horrible
mhm,
things. But
mhm.
she is a resident at Wake Med and will be an OBGYN. She wants to deliver babies.
Yeah, yeah,
And that is her daily miracle. She sees
yeah,
miracles every day, and she believes, which is another point in all of the books, just the faith, whether that be faith in yourself, faith in your friends, family, God, just faith that you'll
yeah,
get through. And so anyway, that
yeah.
was that. So back to your
I
question.
love that.
I think marketing has absolutely, my background in marketing has absolutely helped in doing all of this. I've created all of it myself. And so from soup to nuts, the website, the social posts, everything has been just kind of my own little think tank. And, I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and think, oh, I need to do, and I'll write
Right.
notes down. And I think the writing community has been so incredibly kind and supportive. And so when I'm going to all of these sites and looking at all of these wonderful authors and not replicating what they did, because that's their own story to tell, but definitely finding inspiration and learning what is it that readers are responding to and relating to, and what do they want to know? Do they want to know, that Audrey loves the mountains?
Right.
Is that
Right.
even a factor? Um, because we're just on the first book. So is that too much information? Um, and I think at the end of the day, finding, not to go back to this again, but finding that joy again has been part of it, has been the marketing as well,
Yeah.
because I really did love what I was doing. The work, I felt like there's so much power in storytelling. You just have to be brave enough to tell it. And I think with all of this, the marketing, you have to tell that story just in a more graphic way instead of, words on a page, and telling their story in pictures and, videos and reels and things. So
And that
um,
is
it's,
one part of your competitive advantage. I mean, that's huge in this day and age. Like it's a huge factor. So to understand that, to understand the world of marketing, and to be able to think like that, that's such a benefit for any business, but definitely for, nurturing your own books out there in the field. Were you a part of a writers group or, anything like that? Or
I wasn't. I went straight from
that's
corporate where there was no
amazing.
time to here, we're going to publish a book today.
That is amazing. That's
So
really incredible.
when I left, I knew I had several months while everything was printing and, they were
Yeah.
doing what they do behind the scenes. And I knew my launch date. And
Mhm.
so I used that time to its fullest every day. That was my job. I sat down at the computer and started creating everything, whether it would be the, we have a Carolina Girls shop. We have a book club. And all of the different things that you can, do and serve. And I actually just had a book club last week. Thank you very much, Mary Beth, because she took it all and she cooked up everything. She mixed the drinks. She had the what was just shown. That
Oh my
exactly.
gosh, I
You're
love
so on
this.
point.
Montaigne is the best.
He is.
Oh,
So we,
I love
I
this.
just, my imaginary friends and I were hard at work that whole time, and we just sat down and really thought, what would I want? What would I want to know out of the book, and getting an inside track, especially it's going to be a series, and I want people to stay invested. I want them to
Yes,
really love the girls. So
yes,
anyway,
yes. I
so
love
it's ever
that.
changing.
I love that. That is so much fun.
It has
And
been fun.
that is so fun. Is that I haven't seen like that with the food and the drinks and along with that is so great. I
I
love
haven't either. I literally just thought, what would I want at a book club? I want to have fun. I
that.
want to have the right girls. They've already got that. So how can I add to that? Even if I'm not there, how can I add to someone else's fun? And now I've taste tested a lot of this, and it was fun. It was great.
Oh my gosh,
We
Sunset
had a great.
Sipper. I'm gonna have to like make me one of those.
I'm
That's
telling you,
such
she
a
had. Yeah.
brilliant idea. That is a brilliant idea.
Stay tuned.
Yeah,
If you have a request, you just let me know, and
I
we'll
will. Well,
create a
you know what?
recipe.
Next time, because you're definitely gonna come, book two, because
Absolutely.
I'm so, so anxious to read Rory's story and to like learn more about her and this marriage. I just am really interested in that. And of course to see what happens with Millie, in the next moment after we were left, after we ended. So definitely next time we'll have cocktail
A sip of
and
something.
some of those things, to sip of something. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much, Camille,
Thank
for hanging
you.
out tonight, for saying yes to this interview.
Love
Thank you
it.
for choosing you and saying yes to yourself and all of those wishes, because that's what made tonight possible. And I know that you have encouraged, so many out there who's listening, that it's never too late
It is
and
never too late.
you can do it. You can persevere through the obstacles and the unexpected things. They actually make you better. And that your book and your voice and your ideas are definitely needed. So I
I think
just
a
am
midlife plot twist has been one of the best things that I've ever
yes,
done. So
yes.
highly recommend.
A midlife plot twist. I love that. A
Not a
midlife
crisis.
plot. Not a
Plot
crisis, a
twist.
plot
Yeah.
twist. Not
Mhm.
a crisis, a plot twist.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I we're gonna share all this delicious stuff. So guys, you need to get this book, Carolina Girls, Sunset Beach. It is a breezy, wonderful read. It is an escape. And it
Thank
takes
you.
you to a wonderful place. And the settings, and it's a beautiful also space. And you can find this. We're going to leave the link where you can get this book, but you can get it where you get books. And please check out Camille's. Where can they find this? I will link this. Is this on your website? Yeah.
So it's CamilleHarwood.com
Okay.
is the
Okay.
website. And
Yep.
then Facebook and Instagram are Camille Harwood Books.
Yes. Yes. This is so good. Make yourself a cocktail and a delicious treat. Kick
Get a
your
sip of
heels
something.
up. Get a sip of something. Get your girls together. Get your girls together and read this book and be inspired by friendship, because that and self-discovery. So
Yes.
thank you for
Thank you
the
so
gift.
much.
It has been a pleasure hanging out with you. Thank you, Montaigne, for making it all happen
Thank you, Mom.
tonight. And thank everyone for joining. Until next time, we will see you. Take care of yourself always. And yes, always be reading. All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.